The most dangerous person in your life isn't the one who yells. It's the one who smiles while quietly pulling your strings. We're taught that love means forgiveness, sacrifice, patience. But here's the twist. Manipulation rarely shows up as violence. It wears the mask of love, concern, noble sacrifice. Think for a moment. Have you ever apologized just to keep the peace even when you weren't wrong? Walked away from a conversation doubting your own memory? Or felt smaller, drained, and somehow guilty after being with the very person who was supposed to lift you up? If that's familiar, you may not be in a relationship. You may be in a trap. Seneca warned us, an open enemy is less dangerous than a false friend, for at least you see the strike coming. Manipulators disarm you with affection first, then rewrite your reality, and you end up calling the knife love. Picture this. Every morning, breakfast and gentle laughter. Every night, you go to bed feeling weaker than you woke. That isn't devotion, it's a leash. And here's the cruel paradox. Manipulation doesn't prey on your weakness. It feeds on your strengths, your kindness, your empathy, your willingness to give. Left unchecked, it doesn't just take your time. It eats your soul, piece by piece. In today's video, we'll expose 5 red flags of a manipulative partner you can't ignore, and then use Stoic tools to reclaim clarity, set unbreakable boundaries, and protect your peace. Stay with me to the end. I'll give you a simple, word-for-word boundary line you can use tonight. 2,000 years ago, Marcus Aurelius, Epictetus, and Seneca faced palace intrigue and subtle power games. Today it's texts, gaslighting, silent treatment, and guilt. Different stage, same human nature. The Stoic lens still cuts through the fog. If you want to dive deeper into these lessons, stay with me until the end of this video. And if this is your first time here at the Stoic Habit, consider subscribing so you won't miss the journey of building a mind as unshakable as stone in a world that never stops shifting. Let's begin. Red flag 1. Guilt and emotional blackmail. It never starts with shouting. It begins quietly. A sigh, a subtle glance, a whisper that sounds innocent. If you really loved me, you'd do this. After all I've sacrificed, this is how you treat me. At first, you think it's vulnerability, maybe tenderness. But soon, you realize, no matter what boundary you set, no matter what decision you make, it always circles back, leaving you with guilt. That is not love, that is emotional blackmail. I once heard the story of a young father in Chicago. Every Sunday, he wanted to take his children to visit his parents. Each time, his wife's expression darkened. So, your family matters more than me. And when he tried to rest after a long week of work, she sighed again. I guess your job matters more than I do. Slowly, week by week, he stopped calling his parents. He stopped taking time for himself. He stopped making choices as a man. Until one day, he realized he wasn't living his life anymore. He was living the life she demanded. This is the dark genius of guilt-tripping. The manipulator doesn't need to raise their voice. You begin to police yourself. You anticipate the guilt before it even arrives, and you shrink. Why is it so effective? Because it weaponizes your very strengths. Your kindness, your empathy, your belief that love means sacrifice. They place guilt into your hands, and without thinking, you clutch it to your chest. Seneca once wrote, "He who gives for the sake of return does not truly give." Love is not measured in transactions. And Epictetus was sharper. If you wish to be loved, love without condition. Any demand that turns love into obedience is not love at all. It is slavery. The greatest danger is what it does to your identity. You stop acting from principle. You stop acting from freedom. Instead, you act from fear, not fear of being wrong, but fear of disappointing them. Marcus Aurelius warned, "If it is not right, do not do it. If it is not true, do not say it." So ask yourself, am I doing this because it is right, or because I'm afraid of guilt? If the answer is the latter, you're no longer free. you're living in invisible chains. The Stoic response? Clarity and boundaries. You cannot stop another from sighing, from pouting, from demanding, but you can stop yourself from carrying guilt that was never yours. Picture this. They say, if you loved me, you would. You don't argue. You don't defend. You simply remind yourself, love is not measured by compliance. That, my friend, is freedom. Because real love never needs the weapon of guilt. Red flag 2. Gaslighting and reality distortion. If guilt attacks your choices, gaslighting attacks something far more dangerous, your very reality. Epictetus once warned, if it is not true, do not say it. But manipulators thrive on doing the opposite. It begins small. You recall a promise clearly, but when you bring it up, they laugh. I never said that. You're imagining things. You confront a cruel remark, and they shake their head. You're too sensitive. You misunderstood. At first, you doubt yourself. Maybe I did misremember. But soon, the pattern grows. They deny obvious truths. They dismiss your feelings. They mock your concerns. Until one day, you no longer need them to erase your truth. You've begun erasing it yourself. I knew of a woman who lived through this for years. Every time she challenged her partner, he twisted her words, insisting she was unstable. When she cried, he smirked. See, you're crazy. No one else would put up with you. She started keeping journals of conversations just to prove to herself she wasn't losing her mind. But the damage was already done. This is the cruel brilliance of gaslighting. It doesn't silence you. It teaches you to silence yourself. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The soul becomes dyed with the color of its thoughts." And when someone makes you doubt your thoughts, they are staining your very soul. Seneca warned, "Falsehood corrodes virtue." Because without truth, there can be no clarity, no justice, no freedom. The real danger isn't just confusion, it's dependency. Once you stop trusting your own memory, your own judgment, you begin to lean on the manipulator to tell you what's real. And that's exactly the trap. So, what is the Stoic response? 2 steps: anchor and detach. Anchor yourself in truth. Keep records if you must. Speak to trusted friends who can affirm reality when you're under siege. Detach from their game. Stop wasting your breath arguing with someone who has no interest in truth. Epictetus reminded us, it's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters. Their denial doesn't erase reality, it only exposes their character. Here's the truth. Love never demands you to doubt yourself. If every conversation leaves you feeling crazy, lost, or broken, that is not intimacy. That is psychological warfare. A real partner clarifies. A manipulator confuses. A real partner validates. A manipulator erases. And once you see that difference clearly, you've already begun to reclaim your mind. Red flag 3. Constant criticism disguised as care. It doesn't always sound like an insult. Sometimes it sounds like advice, like concern. But underneath, it cuts just the same. Picture this. You put on a new shirt, hoping for a kind word. Instead, you hear, "That color's fine, but the other one looked better." Or you share a small victory at work. And the response? "Good for you, but don't get too confident. You know how you mess things up." On the surface, it feels like honesty, maybe even care. But deep down, you walk away smaller than before. This is the 3rd red flag, criticism disguised as care. I once heard about a man who endured this for years. Every raise he earned, every problem he solved, every moment he felt proud, his partner found a way to puncture it. When he fixed something around the house, she smirked. Miracle, it didn't fall apart. When he got promoted, she said, "Don't get used to it. You're not that good." At first, he laughed it off. But slowly, he stopped sharing his victories altogether. Why bother when every flame of pride would be blown out the moment it sparked? That is the hidden danger of disguised criticism. It doesn't crush you in one blow. It erodes you, piece by piece, until you see yourself only through their eyes, unworthy, incapable, never enough. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "The opinion of 10,000 men is of no value if none of them know what is good." Just because someone delivers their judgment with confidence doesn't make it truth. And Epictetus reminded us, other people's opinions cannot harm the soul unless you let them in. So here's the Stoic test. Pause and examine. Ask yourself, is this feedback helping me grow or only shrinking me? Because real care builds you up even when it's corrective. Fake care tears you down and calls it honesty. If you leave every conversation doubting yourself, you're not in a relationship. You're in a cage. And here's the truth. Love should be a refuge, not a battlefield. The one who claims to love you should be the one who sees your light, not the one who dims it. The Stoics knew this long ago. Your worth cannot be dictated by someone else's tongue. It must be rooted in reason, in virtue, in the unshakable clarity of your own mind. And when you see criticism for what it truly is, either a tool to help you grow or a poison meant to keep you small, you finally take back the power that was always yours. Red flag 4. Isolation and control of your connections. At first, it feels flattering. I just want to spend all my time with you. Who wouldn't want to hear that? But slowly, devotion hardens into something darker. Every time you plan to see friends, there's a sigh. Why do you even need them when you have me? When your family calls, there's a whisper. They don't really understand you the way I do. And without realizing it, your world begins to shrink. This is one of the clearest red flags of manipulation, isolation. Because a manipulator knows this. As long as you have other voices in your life, you have perspective. Friends can say, "This isn't right." Family can remind you of your worth. But if they cut those voices out, they become the only one left in your ear. And when they are the only voice, they own you. I once knew a woman who lived through this. At first, her boyfriend's constant attention felt intoxicating. But then came the seeds of doubt. Your best friend is jealous of you. Your parents don't really support you. One by one, she withdrew from the people who had loved her for years. By the time she realized what was happening, she felt completely alone, except for him. And that was exactly the point. The danger is how subtle it feels. It doesn't happen in a single moment. It happens one cancelled plan at a time, one whispered doubt at a time, until you wake up and realize you've been cut off from the very people who could help you escape. Marcus Aurelius wrote, "We are made for cooperation, like feet, like hands, like eyelids. To sever someone from their community is to sever them from their natural strength." And Epictetus warned, "Freedom is lost the moment you hand your judgment to someone else." Isolation does exactly that. The Stoic response is twofold: awareness and courage. Awareness, ask yourself, am I stepping back from others because I truly want to, or because someone else is planting doubts in me? Courage, rebuild your circle, even if it angers the manipulator. Seneca reminded us, a faithful friend is a strong defense. And manipulators know this. That's why they work so hard to keep you from having one. Here's the truth. Love that is real will expand your life, not shrink it. It will celebrate your connections, not poison them. It will protect your freedom, not imprison it. If your world is getting smaller, your love isn't growing. It's being controlled. Red flag 5. Love bombing and sudden withdrawal. It often begins like a dream. From the very first moment, you're flooded with affection. Texts every hour, late-night calls, gifts, promises. You're the most amazing person I've ever met. And for the first time in a long time, you feel chosen, special, seen. But then, just as suddenly as it began, it vanishes. The calls slow down. The texts become shorter. The warmth turns cold, and you're left staring at your phone, wondering, what did I do wrong? This is the fifth red flag, the cycle of love bombing and sudden withdrawal. A manipulative partner knows exactly how human psychology works. They overwhelm you with affection, then rip it away. And you begin to crave their approval, like an addict craves a drug. I once knew a woman caught in this cycle for years. Every season started with flowers, handwritten notes, endless declarations of love. But eventually, the tide would turn. Distance, silence, criticism, and every time, she blamed herself. If I can just be better, maybe he'll love me like before. But she didn't realize this wasn't an accident. It was a tool. The affection was bait. The withdrawal was the hook. The Stoics would call this a false promise of happiness. Epictetus taught, freedom is the only worthy goal in life. It is won by disregarding things beyond our control. And here's the truth. You cannot control another person's affection. If your peace depends on their shifting moods, you've already surrendered your freedom. Marcus Aurelius reminded himself daily, the happiness of your life depends upon the quality of your thoughts. If your thoughts are chained to another's approval, you will never be free. So what is the Stoic response? Step back, see the pattern clearly. Ask yourself, is this love steady? Or does it come in waves of excess and absence? Real love is not a roller coaster. It doesn't drown you one day and starve you the next. Real love is steady, calm, reliable. Manipulation thrives on instability because instability keeps you hooked. But once you name the cycle, you break its spell. And here's the ultimate truth. Love that must be earned again and again isn't love. It's control. Real love doesn't leave you anxious or desperate. It leaves you grounded. If affection feels like a drug, then you're not in a romance. You're in a trap. Conclusion. So now you've seen the 5 red flags. Each one alone can drain your spirit, but together they form an invisible cage. Yet the Stoics reminded us for over 2,000 years, no one can enslave your mind unless you hand them the keys. Marcus Aurelius wrote, you have power over your mind, not outside events. Realize this, and you will find strength. You cannot change a manipulator, but you can change your response. You can reclaim your clarity. You can rebuild your boundaries. You can protect your peace. And the very moment you name these tactics for what they are, you've already taken the first step toward freedom. If this video spoke to you, stay with the Stoic habit. Hit like, subscribe for more, and leave a comment below. I choose freedom over manipulation. Say it and let it mark the beginning of your own Stoic journey.